Well, today's object was shot down over northern Lake Huron, and yesterday one was shot down over Canada's Yukon territory, and on Friday one was shot down off the coast of Alaska.
Another object spotted by NORAD over Canada.
For the fourth time in just 9 days, the U.S. takes out an unidentified object, this time over Michigan.
4 takedowns in 8 days. It's the latest in a series of responses to those unidentified high-altitude objects floating over North America.
It has happened again. Today, another aerial object was shot down by U.S. warplanes.
Another mysterious high-altitude object has been discovered on radar.
It has happened again. The U.S. military is shooting down another high-flying object. This time it happened Sunday over Lake Huron.
Dramatic new details about the unidentified object shot down by fighter jets.
This is the size of a small car. It was about 40,000 feet, non-maneuverable. And when people hear small car, don't think of the density of the car, think of just the size of it.
The U.S. downed an aerial object the size of a small car on Friday over Alaska. It landed on sea ice, and crews are still working to get answers on who owned it.
All right, still we do not know this object that was shot down. It's an object. We don't know what kind of an object.
The U.S. defense officials sent F-35 fighter jets up to try to figure out what this object was that was flying around near Alaska. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced, with some pilots saying that the object interfered with the plane's sensors.
The object was downed by pilots from the U.S. Air Force and National Guard.
Then aliens invading Earth, okay?
Other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system, and they did not know how it was actually staying in the air, cruising at that altitude of about 40,000 feet. So this is all added to the Pentagon's wariness of describing in more detail what this object actually is until they can get more information through the debris that they are recovering right now.
Does this change your view at all of the nature of extraterrestrial life?
And as the hours go on, it gets more and more mysterious.
You know, frequency hopping, the propulsion, there's so many questions out there. Obviously, there was some sort of propulsion system that was driving that vehicle. And don't forget, NORAD with Doppler radar is probably going back and looking at where it came from and see if they can track it back.
It looks like NORAD just put out an email a short time ago. It sounds like they're trying to recover it.
We don't know what kind of condition it's in, whether it is intact, for example, but recovery efforts have been launched, and according to the Defense Department, they have been able to recover a significant amount of debris. Now, notably, they still don't know what this object is, where it came from, or even what direction it was headed in, or what direction it came from. It is just all very murky at this point, but they do say that the FBI is going to be taking the lead on analyzing the debris.
This is starting to sound like something out of the X-Files.
As a former CIA officer, I know exactly what's going to go on once we get this wreckage, which is we're going to take it to, some sort of classified facility and try to understand everything about it. Who made it? Where did it come from? What was it carrying, if anything? How did it propel itself?
Of an abundance of caution, they wanted to follow the advice of their military leaders and authorize the shooting down of this object. At this point, once this operation was underway, it was ultimately an American F-22 fighter jet that shot down this unidentified object.
It appears to be a small cylindrical object and smaller than the one that was downed off the coast of North Carolina.
If everything that's been said makes classifying the flying object pretty quizzical.
We do not know who owns it. I want to stress again, we don't know what entity owns this object. We don't really understand what this object was doing.
We have no further details about the object at this time, including any description of its capabilities, purpose, or origin. Again, we don't know the point of origin.
Until more is released about the object, it's going to remain in the category of an unidentified flying object.
The government doesn't want you to not look up if a billion people look up and see things that could harm us.
Wanting to let everybody know that we will detect these now and interdict them and bring them down.
In the context of these objects, 3 more objects were shot down. And as you point out, there's a lot of objects out there. I look at a map of the world and I see all the satellites up there, and it's very terrifying. You're like, my God, if those started raining down, we'd all be gone. Everybody gets to come up with their own theories. We had some this morning, but I'm not going to share them here because I don't know either. The U.S. is still not able to call the 3 objects shot down by the United States over the course of 3 days anything but objects.
Other, weirder, unidentified flying objects.
This latest object
was in the shape of an octagon, unmanned, and traveling near sensitive sites at an altitude of 20,000 feet. President Biden gave the order to shoot it down once it reappeared on radar out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of military leaders.
What's gone on the last 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness.
Why it's taking so long for number one, for me personally, to identify these objects. Two, why is it taking so long for them to be shot down?
One we saw, I remember I was involved in, was going Mach 6, which made no sense at all to anybody.
This whole concept of extraterrestrial came up, right? And there have been congressional hearings about this, about UFOs
and there was a UAP coming in out of Canada very, very fast, very, very high, to the point where the commander on the ground there at NORAD said, I want you to launch everything we have against this thing and catch it. I want to know what this thing is. And as this thing continued and was pursued by our aircraft and continued over the eastern seaboard and wound up leaving U.S. airspace somewhere over Florida towards Cuba. And we weren't ever able to catch it.
This morning, questions after more unidentified objects are discovered over U.S. and Canadian airspace. According to a senior administration official, this latest air defense operation coming just 24 hours after another object was spotted over Canada, U.S. and Canadian officials ordering it shot down. And that incident coming just one day after another unidentified object was shot down off the coast of Alaska.
Recovery teams in Alaska using Navy planes and helicopters to recover and analyze those objects they find.
Now, do I think these are visiting aliens? It would be odd if they were. Aliens moving across the galaxy? And it's dropping some balloons? Oh, what alien would do that? I don't want to meet those aliens. I don't want the low-tech aliens.
Well, it's high tech to think that you can come in and then launch a balloon.
I'm disappointed. No, yes, we don't know what they are. So technically they are UF, the first three, U, unidentified flying object. The government called them UAPs. That they were just rebranding.
Oh, they were trying to rebrand.
Yeah, don't. Space basically has unlimited resources. Everything that's rare on Earth is common in space. Rare earth metals, even though they're just rare in location, they're not really rare in abundance. One of my dreams is that we turn space into our backyard. Earth turns space into its backyard. We are unwittingly crowdsourcing any possible alien invasion.